Hello, this is Mr. Ellis. I'm going to be giving a brief lecture about arrays and their methods. The layout is the same as in previous videos. I use an HTML document with styling in the head. I have a header, and in this particular video I'm going to have one section. This section is known as section 1. It's been styled in the style tag. I have 10 individual IDs, P tags with IDs running from 0 through 10. My script will be a array lecture js.js JavaScript. That's where I'll be working most of this video from. I'm going to use comments, and you can read the comments while you watch the video, and it will very much follow what I'm going to say. An array is like a variable in that it uses storage and memory to hold data. Arrays use one name to hold many values. These values are known as subscripted variables. Okay, I've created, or I will create, an array in two ways. The one way is use the var keyword and then give the variable a name, or the array a name in this case. The array is an object, so you can use new array and request storage for a number of elements. Okay, that's if you know how many elements you're going to use. Okay, this is an efficient way to create an array. In most cases, if we don't know what the number of elements will be, or you plan to change the number of elements several times, which I do in this video, I will use, again, a var keyword and array name, my R, and then make an assignment. Again, the assignment character is equal, is one equal sign. We use square brackets to create an array, and all the elements can be placed in those square brackets to start, and you'll see me do that. If I know every value that I'm going to put into an array, why not just front load that array in the creation? Okay. In this case, however, we are going to use indexing to create each individual array. Okay. You can use the assignment character, again, equals, to assign values to the array elements. Each element is subscripted, thus the subscripted array, okay, variable. Okay. The 0 is the first element of an array. It is 0 based. So when we count with arrays, we go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Although I have 5 elements, the subscript stops at 4 because 0 is the first element's subscript. In this case, I use 0 and put my name in. I use 1 and put an integer, 4. I use 2 and put in a Boolean value. I use 3 and put in a slightly larger integer. And I use 4 and put in the St. Louis city name. Okay. As you note, we have mixed values here. We have strings, integers, booleans. Okay. And it's quite all right. Arrays can handle it. So once I've loaded my array, I now can access these values. You also use a subscript to access the values stored in an array. The following statements will display the values of the array in my P tags on my document. I'm going to save and tab over to my document. And here you see I have the header formatted as usual, but I have placed on the document my array elements values. Now that's going to continue to stay there no matter what happens with the array. It's going to stay there. And now I'm going to display the array by using the accessed values from my script. As you can see here, I use the document.getElement by ID. Each p tag will hold the values of the arrays. These are the access. My R0 will get the first element, and my R4 will get the last element. And as I reload my document, we'll see the values that were placed in those array storage locations. You can change the values of elements by using their index. For example, here I have the second element. My R1 is pointing to the second element, and I'm going to change that value to a rather large number. Okay, I want to use the same method to display my p tags, and as you can note here, 0 through 1 are the p tags. My R0 through 4 are the elements, and the element that I'm changing will be the second element, 1, 2. So as I look at my elements values, the second one is the small integer 4. I'm going to change that to a larger integer if I save. And we've changed it to a larger integer. Now, this may seem an awkward way to talk about arrays, but I feel if you see the values and you see the locations change, then you'll understand what is actually going on in the background. You can change the data types of an element also. Okay, in the case that the array was loaded with strings, integers, and Boolean values, I can change a numeric value to a string value with the assignment statement. It works just fine. Okay, I'm going to change the fourth element of my array, and it's going to say numeric to string. I'm going to use the same output mechanism. My p tags from the values or from the storage locations will be displayed. Now we see here that the 0, 1, 2, 3 element will be changed. I'm going to click, and it now says numeric to string. Okay, these changes are pretty common with arrays in JavaScript. However, in other data processing in other program languages, it would not work, say with Java, because you distinctly specify the type of data that is in each array. So you can't change the values. But since JavaScript variables are untyped, you can make that simple change from numeric to string. If for some reason you need to know how many elements are in an array, you can use the .length method. Now, .length is a method, but it also has it doesn't have a parameter list. So it's just .length. As you can see here, no open and close parentheses. It is an array. It is an array method. So I'm going to use my P1 this time and put out this array has whatever number of elements. Okay. Now I'm going to reload, and it tells me that this array has 5 elements, which we counted in the beginning, with indexes 0 through 4, meaning 5 elements. In the beginning of the video, I used an open and closed square bracket with no values enclosed. That's because I want to talk about how you add and take elements or subtract elements from your array. If you want to add elements to the end of your array, you use the push method. The push method will add an element and increase the, as you can see, increase the indexing. So now I go from 0 to 5 because I'm adding another element. I'll have 6 elements. And as I reload, I gain a new element up the down staircase. This is not very difficult. You'll find a reason to use these methods, and in your array assignment you will probably have to use all of these methods to manipulate the data values in your array. Now, if you want to add an element to the beginning of the array, you use the unshift method. I know it's unconventional, but unshift is the alternate from shift, and we'll see later that shift has a totally different functionality. Okay, the unshift is my r dot, using dot notation, new first element will be produced, and again we add an index. Okay, so now we'll have 7 elements in our array. And as you can see, we have 6 elements currently, the last being up the down staircase, the first being Clifton Ellis. As I reload, I gain a new first element. Which brings us to removing elements. I can remove elements from my array by using the pop method. Dot notation, I would say my r dot pop with open and close parentheses. It is a method, and it will remove an element from the end of the array, and thus I lose an index. Here I go from 6 to 5 now, 0 through 5, meaning I have 6 elements. And as I load, I'm going to lose my last element, which is up the down staircase. And it goes away, and I again have 6 elements in my array. Now we're going to talk about the dot shift method. If I want to remove the first element from my array, I use the dot shift. Remember before when I was adding, I unshifted? Well, now I'm going to shift using dot notation, my r dot shift with open close parentheses, and I will lose an index. So I'm going now from 0 to 4, which means I have 5 elements. And as I reload, I will lose my first element. Back to the original 5 elements in my array. With all this adding and subtracting of elements from your array, you can lose track of the location of information of your data. You can find your data or the index of your data by using the index of method. Okay, if you need to find the index of an element, for example, St. Louis in my array, I can use dot notation, my r dot index of, and then the value. Now, it returns an integer value. It returns the index of that. I can use that index later, but you always want to accept it or use it immediately. But I'm going to accept it into a variable called ndx. Okay, and again, I'm going to use my output mechanisms, but this time I'm only going to use P6, and I'm going to write out the index of the element with the value of St. Louis is, and then ndx will display the number of the index. As I reload, I'm expecting to see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 for St. Louis, the last element. And the index of the element with the value of St. Louis is 4. The last method we want to look at is a method that will create a comma-separated list or string of the elements in your array. Okay, this has become valuable if, for example, you want to just list out the elements values without going into, for example, too many p tags, individual p tags. You can list them out individually. Okay, I want to use the join method to do this, and I'm going to save it in a variable. So I'm going to declare a variable, array string or arg string. I'm going to use my arg with dot notation, join, open and close parentheses. Now, the default separator is a comma. You can put values in the parameter list that will be used as separators. Okay, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to reload, and there you see the values that are separated by a comma. Clifton Ellis, comma 12, 14,530, the value true, numeric to string, and St. Louis. This has been Mr. Ellis, showing you how to manipulate arrays with their methods